don't want here in America is a ton more Muslims emigrating into the United States. One thing we don't want here in America is a ton more Muslims emigrating into the United States. Sorry, but we don't. And in the UK, it's already happened. You tell me.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. So, Meghan Kelly, she decided to open her mouth and spew hatred towards Muslims. And what I find quite repulsive is how Muslim is synonymous with brown person. And this is white supremacist coded. Okay, she's a blonde-haired white woman, and she's saying Muslim immigrants. This is code for brown men. Brown or black men from sub-Saharan Africa or Northern Africa or the Middle East. Now, does she realize there are Muslims all over the world? Okay? But the thing is here, Meghan Kelly has come under fire for being just another feminist. A modern woman and a feminist. Not very traditional, even though she claims to be Catholic. Now, when she worked for Fox News, she wore tight dresses and showed much of her legs, so she thirst trap. Fox News is famous for putting on white blondes in red dresses and thirst trapping and then making them have tons of makeup on. Fox News is like, they gotta give you eye candy in order to watch the boring news before they, put Sean Hannity in your face. And Meghan Kelly has made money from being a gooning object of older men who watch Fox News. And when she thinks about Islamic modesty, I truly believe she finds the hijab as a threat because you can't manipulate men with your sexuality. You're not leading with your allure and your ability to manipulate men through making them horny, but rather you have to lead with your intelligence because you're cloaked in the garments of modesty, and this is something she cannot handle because she was chosen not because she's smart, but because she's able to turn people on, specifically men on. And this is the deep irony about Christian American men, is that they'll claim they love monogamy, but they enjoy a good thirst trap. This is why female influencers on the right, they post bikini pics, you have MAGA ladies, and if you notice on fishing pages, they'll have like women in bikinis holding up a fish on a boat. The men have to constantly be sexually stimulated in order to have them focus on what's being said. So the women are really bait. And if you don't give them something to fap to or lust for, they're not going to watch your network. And this is why you see them get really mad at the fat acceptance movement. It's not because they want women to be healthy, it's because they don't want to see ugliness. They don't want to see something they can't fap to. Rather, a woman exists in their mind to be material for them to drool over. And this is known by a lot of conservative women on a deep spiritual level. So they also recognize that their ability to get money is based upon the male gaze tossing them a couple shekels. It's not really based upon talent. Because if you were truly confident in your talent, you wouldn't fear putting the beauty aside. Because a smart woman knows at the end of the day, your beauty is going to start to fade fast at 35. Yes, there's some women who pay lots of money for plastic surgery, like J-Lo, okay? But the point of the bigger point is that you gotta age with grace and not be like Joanne Rivers, who was getting plastic surgery until the very end. So it's important for us to understand that women like Meghan Kelly are deeply afraid of actual modesty, and how Muslims are not supposed to free mix between the genders. And in the past, Meghan Kelly and Tommy Lauren shamed men who didn't pick career women and said that they're intimidated by a strong, independent woman. Can't remember if I put that thread on my blog. I might have, but I recall reading it and dealing with that. Because it took Tommy Lauren a while to get a ring on it, and I don't think she's had any children yet. And Tommy Lauren was made famous for being rude, a loudmouth, but she was pretty. And Mark Dice looked at her and was like, oh, there's this little bitchy bombshell. Let's support her. Which, if you look at Christian values, the women are not supposed to be thirst-trapping CEO boss babes. But again, there's always a hypocrisy in American culture, specifically around American Christians, because they speak out of both sides of their mouth. So they'll praise a nun for being a nun, but at the same time, they recognize they have the Jezebel spirit. Meghan Kelly has that corporate Jezebel spirit. She's the type of person to mock Kamala Harris for being heels up Harris, but then she herself used her body and being an ice queen. And Joe Rogan once had this really strange diatribe where he was just drooling over Meghan Kelly, proving my point that a lot of women will use their sexuality first, and then they know that they can get money off the male gaze. See, Muslim women, you actually have to work on your brain. You have to, have a good IQ. You gotta have some truth. You don't lead with your sexuality. You have to work 10 times harder. A Christian woman just wears a cross around her neck, shows some cleavage, shows some heels. Christian men will make her famous. Okay? Whereas if a Muslim woman gets some status in the Muslim community, like Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, but women who aspire to be scholars or students of knowledge or just great moms in general, they maintain the rules of Islam with modesty, no free mixing, not showing their aura. These women work twice as hard, 10 times as hard, because they were not able to use the cheat code of making men horny in order to get ahead. So, Muslim men also will enforce modesty upon their daughters, and for someone like Meghan Kelly, she's more of a cryptic feminist, and she would encourage your daughters to, use their sexuality before their brains. Turning Point USA is also an anti-Muslim organization, as I've proven in the past, and Charlie Kirk himself hated Muslims. Turning Point UK hates Muslims. I've shared this in the past, and they're a Zio organization with top J donors. So, she's been a speaker for Turning Point USA. So, of course, she's also going to hate Muslims. And then, it's funny that Turning Point calls himself like a Christian, fighting the feminists, when now Kirk's wife is putting her children with nannies so that she can be a working rich lady, even though she has enough money now to where she doesn't need to work, but she wants more money and power. So now she's a Hillary Clinton, basically, and she's no better than your average feminist. And so American conservatives don't conserve anything. And if you go back and look at how vintage Christian women were dressing, where they knew their place was, you can see Meghan Kelly is none of that. She's none of that. And she got her start and then was able to keep it going by making old, perverted, pot-bellied men horny, and then using your sex appeal, and then you zoom up past the headline. And then women like her, they have a very difficult time putting their piece on ice and leading with intelligence beforehand. So to her, Muslims are a threat because the men are not as easily manipulated by women. men are told to be masculine in Islam. Remember, the Prophet, peace be upon him, cursed men who imitate women and women who imitate men. And men in Islam are not subservient to the matriarchy. And Prophet Joseph, may Allah be pleased with him, resisted a woman's allure and advances. So we honor a prophet who was able to resist female bewitchment. Women like Meghan Kelly depend upon bewitching men and leading them by their erection towards wherever they're trying to be led. And Fox News understands that if you want to get more viewers, you gotta entertain lust. So she's like a DEI hire. Get a thirst-trapping white blonde instead of like a intelligent man who had to work harder to get there and actually can teach you information and whatnot. No. Just give her a teleprompter, give her a script, and then she can, tell them what we need to hear. Because there are men who don't lower their gaze and will be controlled. And Pearl Davis actually copied the Meghan Kelly model where you show legs. You gotta show legs and have the camera focused on your legs so that the man constantly fantasizes about catching a glimpse. So Meghan Kelly has really led with that. And so for her, Islam is a religion that protects men from manipulative, thirst-trapping witches. So of course someone like her who got rich because of that fears actual modest women, actual devout conservative men. Meghan Kelly doesn't really want conservatism. She's not that. To me, she's a Democrat, liberal, progressive, CEO, boss babe woman. A working gal. I don't know how anyone could think she's conservative. Again, an American conservative is not really conserving the traditions of their faith. They think because they go to church on Easter and Christmas and in the occasional mass that they are somehow devout Christians. No, Islam is the best religion because of how it tries to keep its traditions alive. We worship the one true God. Our women cover for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and our men are allowed to be unapologetically masculine, and that is a beautiful thing. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us and guide Meghan Kelly to Islam and prevent our daughters from becoming like Meghan Kelly. Ameen.